Solomon, the kingdom of David and Solomon split into Israel and Judah. The Judaic kings turned Lachish into a fortress city surrounded by a wall, facing the Philistine cities and a route from Egypt. Lachish quickly became Judah's second most important city, following Jerusalem. Some 2,700 years ago, the Middle East was ruled by the Assyrian Empire, a vast and unstoppable kingdom. Like all empires, they severely taxed the nations under their rule. One of those nations was the Kingdom of Judah, ruled at the time by King Hezekiah. In 705 BCE, the Assyrian king Sargon II was killed, which seriously shook the kingdom. Some of the kingdoms under his rule saw the opportunity to rebel against the empire, and King Hezekiah joined the mutiny. The new Assyrian king Sennacherib didn't immediately deal with the rebels. For 4 years he was busy with other wars, but when payback arrived, Sennacherib embarked on a war of vengeance against the rebels. Sennacherib's conquest is one of the most fascinating and documented in ancient history. Ashdod, Ammon, Moab, and Edom surrendered. Sidon, Ashkelon, Ekron were conquered. The war machine arrived at the gates of the Judite kingdom. King Hezekiah heard the galloping horses and cries of war, but he trusted his fortifications with the help of the Egyptian rulers with whom he made a protection covenant. But most of all, he trusted in the God of Israel, whose representative, the prophet Isaiah, repeatedly promised him that he would defeat the mighty Assyrian army. He refused to surrender. On its way to Jerusalem, the Assyrian war machine seized and burned down every city in the Judite kingdom. This large and organized army included a cavalry, an infantry with archers and marksmen, and an engineering corps specializing in walled regions. He conquered Azekah and reached the walls of Lachish. The tragic ending was foretold. Despite his victory over Judah, Sennacherib failed his attempt to conquer Jerusalem, where the rebel king resided. Conquering Lachish was the only achievement on which he could pride himself. He commands to have a relief depicting the conquest of Lachish in his palace in Nineveh. In 1842, more than 150 years ago, a British archaeologist, Sir Austen Henry Layard, dug in the Nineveh Mound. In Sennacherib's destroyed palace, he uncovered a room featuring an etched tablet.
There's another room here, decorated with etched walls. Wow, look at this etching. Warriors armed from head to toe. It's a battle array preparing to attack, perhaps a besieged city. Unbelievable. It's so detailed. There's the city. Look at the defenders of the tower. And look here. Battering rams for breaking down the wall. This looks like a convoy of captives being exiled, carrying the victors' loot with them.
Led by the Assyrian soldiers.
We're at the end of the room, but the relief continues on this wall. Look, the convoy is standing before a minister or a king on his throne. There's an inscription in Assyrian. The mighty king Sennacherib sits on his throne as the loot of the city of Lachish passes before him.
The loot of the city of Lachish. Have you ever heard the name Lachish?
Of course, Lachish was a city in the land of Judah that safeguarded the road to Jerusalem. I wonder why Sennacherib chose to depict the conquest of Lachish of all places.
My name is Nehushtan of the tribe of Reuben, a commander in the Judahite army. When Sennacherib began his conquest, Hezekiah sent me to command over Lachish. Lachish was located between vineyards and fig trees, surrounded by valleys, connected to a nearby mount on its southwest side. I knew it was the easiest place to penetrate the city. And that's where I reinforced the main fortification. Refugees arriving from the Judahite cities spoke of the besieged cities. We already heard the echoes of battle from Ezekiel and saw the cloud of smoke above it. First came the archers, raining down their arrows. Behind them were the marksmen, hurling a hailstorm of rocks. The Assyrians directed most of the attack at the defenders of the towers. Shielded by the rocks and arrows, the Assyrians cast a siege ramp to give the war machine access to the wall at the top of the mountain. The Assyrians sent 5 battering rams onto that ramp and began destroying the wall. A huge spear fastened by leather straps repeatedly striking the wall. We threw lit torches and chariot wheels at the Assyrians, anything we could find in order to set on fire and stop the battering rams. They had to appoint a soldier to each battering ram, pour water on it, and extinguish the fire. The Assyrians eventually managed to raise the ramp and break into the city. They killed most of the warriors and took the women and children captive. The Assyrians captured me as well, but decided to keep me alive. The Assyrian soldiers marched us all the way from Lachish to Assyria, over a distance of 1,200 kilometers. For 2 months, we carried the loot they had pillaged from us. We arrived in Victory March before Sennacherib, who received us upon his throne, boasting about his victory.
Besieged, conquered, looted, destroyed, demolished, and burnt the cities of Hezekiah, king of Judah.
But you haven't overpowered Hezekiah. Judah is still independent.
I covered their skies in the smoke of fires like a thick fog.
But you haven't conquered Jerusalem.
I imprisoned Hezekiah himself within Jerusalem, his own kingdom, like a caged bird, preventing him from leaving the city gates.
But you haven't conquered Jerusalem. It is still independent.
From Lachish, Sennacherib sent an army convoy to the Judahite king Hezekiah in Jerusalem, demanding his surrender. It was led by Rabshakeh, who was familiar with Israelite customs. He spoke fluent Hebrew. Rabshakeh's speech was a masterpiece of psychological warfare, an exemplary ploy which failed.
Do not listen to Hezekiah. Has the God of any nation ever delivered his land from the hand of the king of Assyria? Who of all the gods of these countries has been able to save his land from me? How then can the Lord deliver Jerusalem from my hand?
Hezekiah, supported by prophet Isaiah's promise, rejected the plea made by Rabshakeh and Sennacherib.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come unto this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor cast a mound against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and he shall not come unto this city, saith the Lord.
A plague swept through the camp, killing most of Sennacherib's soldiers. The Bible elaborates that it was the work of God's angel.
And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went forth and smote in the camp of the Assyrians. And when men arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses.
As the prophet promised, the great Assyrian army did not enter Jerusalem. Miraculously, they retreated without overpowering Hezekiah. Jerusalem was not conquered, and the rebel king survived. An unprecedented event in the history of relationships between Assyria and the kingdoms under its rule. The salvation of Jerusalem is an important milestone in the belief that Jerusalem is protected by the God of Israel, an unconquerable city surrounded by an aura of holiness. Sennacherib was left to boast about his victory over Lachish. In the throne room of his palace in Nineveh, he erected a glorious relief depicting details of the conquest of Lachish in Judah, and completely ignoring his failure in Jerusalem.
Okay.
Stone toilet seat.
Yeah. We'll explain it. Okay. Yeah, and many times in gate areas, you did.
啊，一个一个扫一遍，你看，啊，坐在城门口的长老的位置，高高低低，啥都有啊。看中间这个最高的应该是给国王的
C 位了，
C 位。
最高的，重量级的。
太有意思了。是以前的宫殿，现在只剩下地基。
What do they want to find here?